Small introduction to Dr. Jairam. He has completed his BTech from JNTU in 2007 and MTech from VIT Vellore in 2009. Then he has received the PhD degree from IIT Roorkee in the year 2014 in electrical engineering in the area of the power electronics and multi-level converters. He is currently working as the assistant professor in electrical engineering at NIT Andhra Pradesh. That is all of you might be aware that it is a new NIT that is opened. Before joining the NIT Andhra Pradesh, he has also worked in NIT Uttarakhand and NIT Kurukshetra as one of the dynamic faculty. He has published many research papers in the area that you can check by his name also, and his area of interest include the grid integrated renewable energy system, multi-level inverter converter, and power quality issues and high power factor converter and smart grid applications. Now I welcome you on the behalf of NIT Patna and Atal Academy of the AICT program. So welcome Dr. Jairam. We can Dr. Jairam, unmute yourself.
I have unmuted, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Amrish. And thank you for giving this opportunity. So first of all, good morning to all the participants who are attending this Atal short-term training program, faculty development program. And so I have a small, interaction with NIT partner also. So in 2013. And I think it's a great opportunity for me from Amrish to deliver a lecture over this faculty development program. And being we have 1 hour 15 minutes time, I may not be covering if I directly go for the integration, grid integration by high power factor converters, the time would not be sufficient. So instead of measure with the quantity, I feel that the presentation would be whatever I present, that should first inculcate into your minds, so that at least later on you can enhance the knowledge to reach the target. So I think till now, by the way of your schedule I have seen in this faculty development program, already you got the idea and some concepts about the power electronics basic converters, inverters and all. So we will be discussing about the multi-level inverters first as a small topic, and then after we will discuss the high power factor converter, the basic high power factor converter operation, and then the third step will be how we can use the same logic of high power factor converter for grid integration renewable energy system. This is the 3 steps which we go on. So the first inverter topic I will cover up a bit fast, because I think most of you are from power electronics and this the same area. You can easily follow the things, whereas the other 2 steps I will be just going a bit slow so that you can understand the concept. Fine. So I think I have shared a PPT. I think it's visible to everyone. Dr. Amrish, can you please tell me? Is it visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Fine. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Amrish. First thing is, I think it has been already covered by Professor Pramod Agarwal in the first pen. So you know the basic inverter topics and all. So the only main thing or the main concept I want to ask you in this complete inverter is, when we go for a basic 2-level inverter and 3-level inverter, the concept of pole voltage is a very important nomenclature which we are supposed to understand. Because if you go through the literature about the multi-level inverters, all the concepts discuss or they decide the level of the inverter just by counting the number of levels in the output voltage, irrespective to whether it is a phase voltage or line voltage in 3-phase or just if it is single phase based on the output voltage by just counting the level of the voltages, we decide the level of the inverter. But when we try to so go for a high voltage applications, it is very important that the multi-level inverter which we use should also be symmetrical topology, because two things. Whenever we are operating the appliances in our electrical engineering, we generally have two options. One is something like high voltage and high power applications, and the second thing is low voltage and maybe low power applications. In case of low voltage and low power applications, where you prefer to not to have where you prefer not to have the harmonics, or if you want to have, if you want to filter out the what you say output voltage in a proper way completely, in such case, irrespective to the cost or the efficiency of the inverter, just by increasing the level of the specific inverter, we just operate it to have a most quality waveform. Because why I'm saying waveform is, when we discuss about a power quality, the power quality can either be discussed about the current waveform or a voltage waveform. So ultimately, what happens based on the application, we decide whether the voltage waveform or current waveform should be sinusoidal. Accordingly, you design the topology and you just operate it. But when we go for high voltage and high power application, in general, we prefer for a symmetrical waveforms, symmetrical topologies, so as to sustain easily for the high voltages, so that the neutral will not be floated. And if you want to do any compensating techniques, we can easily do it, because you have a specific neutral in case of a symmetrical topologies. So basic thing, whatsoever you know about a multi-level inverter calibration, level of the inverter calibration, the major thing is for a symmetrical multi-level inverter, we generally decide the level of inverter by using a pole voltage. So I think everyone know the operation of inverter, and if you see what is the pole voltage in this inverter, it is a two-level inverter. If you say, how we say it is a two-level inverter, when you measure the pole voltage between the midpoint of the voltage source and the midpoint of the leg, the voltage which you see is something like this: VR0, V by naught, and V by naught. You have the pole voltage. You have the voltage. So how many levels you see in this pole voltage basically define the level of an inverter. In case, if you are operating the same inverter in 180-degree mode of operation, the level of the output line voltage is, as you are seeing here, you have some quasi square wave type of voltage, where you have a V, 0 and minus V. So just by seeing this output line voltage, you cannot say this inverter as a 3-level. But why we say it is a 2-level? Just because of the pole voltage. So the pole voltage in case of symmetrical inverter basically justifies your level of inverter, but not the output levels in the voltages. This is the first thing we should understand. Because why I am specifically concentrating on the symmetrical inverter is, when we are trying to inculcate the grid integration, you almost work with a very high voltages. So when you are making a high voltages to operate in the grid, so whenever you want to, you may be having the issues of load balancing and voltage balancing. At the same time, the other thing is load and voltage balancing. At the same time, issues to compensate some other parameters also arise. So if you want to do such compensation, you will require a neutral point or some other common point for all the three phases to do some compensating techniques. So that's why we are basically concentrating on symmetrical inverter. So I think you understand what is a pole voltage and how to measure. In case even if you have a single DC source in the DC side, if you want to measure the pole voltage of an inverter, you should split the DC voltage into two, and by measuring the midpoint the voltage between the midpoint of your source and the midpoint of the bridge, the whatever you measure is changed to be pole voltage. So this is simple thing which I think you understand well, and directly now we will jump into multi-level inverter. So basically, what is the necessity of multi-level inverters is, conventional VS are referred as two-level inverters. So increasing switching levels lead to better output voltage, and various PWM switching can be used to control harmonics. That means simple thing is that when the if you see the two-level inverters, basically what happens when you are giving a DC source. Let us have a case study over this one. For suppose if you have a DC voltage of some 200 volts, if let us say you want the switches that are connected maximum up to 500 volts. Okay, so if you are connecting the DC voltage of 1000 volts, both the switches will share 500 and 500 because it's a two-level inverter. So the total voltage stress across the devices will be VDC by level. So ultimately what happens, the total two switches will share basically the total voltage in this case, sorry, level, number of level minus 1. So here what happens, if you see the peak inverse voltage of the switches, whether the upper switch is switched on or lower switch is switched on, ultimately the switch which is in off state will be having the total DC link voltage falling over it. That means when you are just in case of two-level inverter, if you want to, that means in case of two-level inverter, if you see in simulation, you can give as much as voltage you want. But in practically, when you're using the MOSFETs or IGBTs, in the present technology, you may be designing the MOSFETs or IGBT up to 3.3 kV capacity and more than that. But when you would want to go for a high voltage applications, and when you require to operate your inverter more than the voltage or rated voltage of the switch which is available in the market, practically ultimately what happens, you need to either make a series of parallel connections. So these things you already know, and at the same time what are the problems of series and parallel connection. These things we are very much aware due to the characteristics. At any point of time, if any switch in series or in parallel is not switching on simultaneously, it will lead to complete destruction of the specific leg. So ultimately, there are so many risks when you are operating in series and parallel combination of switches in when you try to operate in high voltage. Due to that reason, what happens? We are going for multi-land, because in this case, when the thyristor is having the ability to carry only 500 volts, the total DC link voltage which you can give should be less than 500 volts. In fact, what we do, we generally maintain at least 10% of safety factor we maintain. So if it is 500 volts, maybe we will operate maximum 450 only. But when you want to integrate the same things to a grid system, the output voltage, AC side voltage may be requiring about 11 kV or more than that also. So in such cases, what happens? The DC link voltage which you are supposed to inject into the inverter will be very high. At that time, your two-level inverter cannot sustain. So ultimately, that is the first thing why we are supposed to go for a multi-level inverter. And at the same time, what are the things? If you see the general structure of multi-level inverter, so basic thing, if you so main thing why we go for multi-level inverter is, in case of multi-level inverter, this is the basic structure of a multi-level inverter. If you see in the case of multi-level inverter, the simple logic is a total DC link voltage that is given as a source will be splitted into n number of equal voltages, and they are fed to a inverter or some processing system which actually combined each other to maintain or to generate different level of voltages at output. So that is the way how actually a multi-level inverter works. That means instead of giving a total DC link voltage at a time into an inverter, while operating the switches in the inverter, you give the voltage as a part of voltages. Ultimately, what happens, if you see the figure over the screen, this power processing system which you are seeing over the screen can be any topology, but what you are doing, the total DC link voltage split into small voltage, and in this power processing system, you do the switching on and off in such a way that you get different levels obtained at the output side. Whereas the switches that are carrying inside this power processing system will have small amount of voltage fall on every switch. So this is the one different way, like simply some more general topology is something like a total DC link voltage is splitted into n number of voltage level, n number of small voltages, and then you have the load in this case. So what happens? You do the switching so that you get, if for example, if the switch is closed at V5, you get the maximum voltage across this one. Here, this is the main thing. If you see the voltage output between the output voltage and this neutral point, between which you can see, if you see the literature, the level of the inverter, I mean the output voltage is drawn in two ways. The level is decided in two ways. One is taking this as the positive with the reference as this lower negative, as if you can take a reference, you get one type of waveform. On the other side, if you are taking this one and if you take the midpoint of this DC source, then you get the reference in a different manner. For suppose if you take in this case, what happens? We get a V5, V4, V3, V2, V1. If you are connecting to the switch to V5 and if you take this as 0 point for this output, in such case you get 2 VM. If this is connected to V4, then you get VM. And if it is connected to V3, you get 0. And if the switch is connected to V2, you get minus VM. And if the switch is connected to V1, you get minus 2 VM. So you can see if you have 5 transition of level 1, 0.5, 0, minus 0.5 and minus 1. These are the 5 states you can define it. So what the switch is doing in this case, the same thing is done by using different type of topologies so that only that amount of small voltages will appear across the load. And that is the way how the multi-level, it is the simple logic. As we go on, we will understand better. And the next step goes with the topology of multi-level. I think you would be aware that many of you, that there are 3 major topologies. If you open the literature, you may be having a number of multi-level topologies you may be finding. But the basic topologies here, diode clamped, flying capacitor, cascaded MLI. So in these 3 cases, what are the major advantages and disadvantages? Let us just go through. So in case of diode clamped, this is the simple logic of this is the diode clamped multi-level inverter. This is basically a half bridge. So this is the topology. So how the switching happens is when SA1 and SA2 is turned on, what happens as this load is, this midpoint is taken as reference, when SA1 and SA2 is turned on, in such case what happens, the capacity, the current will flow in this manner. So in the other side, so this is what happens, VDC by 2. What happens when SA1 and SA2 is turned on, VDC by 2 appears across your load. In the second state, what happens, for example, if SA2 and SA3 is turned on, then in such case what happens, the current have 2 ways. One, it will flow in this manner, 0 state. It may flow in this manner. And the other case, what happens, it can also flow in this manner. That means during the 0 state, when the load want to create de-energize in a positive direction or a negative direction, this 0 state will allow or give path to de-energize like this. On the other side, you can de-energize in this way also. And next, third state, if you say, if SA3 and SA4 is turned on, in that case, what happens? This is positive. The current enter in this manner from 0 to negative of this one, and then it flow in this manner. So what are the things? When SA1, SA2 is turned on, you get positive voltage. When SA2, SA3, you get 0 state. When SA3 and SA4, you go to minus VDC. And you see the voltage across each switch. For suppose in case of 2 level, if the total DC link is 500 volts, the upper switch and lower switch both will share 500 and 500. But in this case, what happens? When the 500 volt is split into 250 and 250, this by the capacitors equally, in such case what happens? This switch or this switch, whatsoever the reason is, ultimately all these switches will take the potential of only 250 each. So at that time, what happens? Instead of 500, if the same switches if you are using which can tolerate 500 volts, you can connect now 1000 volts here. So if you want to go for 1000 to 3000, then accordingly the level of the inverter shall be increased to take the complete voltage for operation. Whereas the switching device stress remains to be same. So more the level of the inverter, switch is inverter, the switching stress will keep on reducing at the power ratio of VDC by M minus 1. So this is a typically a CMC. Hello. Yeah. So this is typically a 3-level single phase full bridge, whereas the earlier one is half bridge, it is full bridge. In this case also same thing. When you are operating, you have the operation this way one. Okay, same thing. So here what happens in the earlier case, you have the VDC by 2 0 and minus VDC by 2. In this case, what happens when you are operating this bridge? Okay, you can get the VDC minus VDC by 2 0 minus VDC by 2 and plus VDC. How if the both operate at a time, you can get total voltage of VDC here. Okay, when these 4 are operated, you get VDC. So when these 2 are operated, you get the minus VDC, right? If the total is operated. When you are operating only this one through the 0 state like this, then you get plus VDC. In the other side, you get minus VDC. So what are the states you can observe? But if you see the pole voltage, when we say it is a pole voltage, again just by seeing this output voltage, you cannot say it is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It cannot be. You cannot say it is a 5 level, because when you see the pole voltage VA0, VB0, which is measured between the midpoint of the leg to the midpoint of your DC source, between VA0 or VB0, you can see VDC by 2, 0 and minus VDC by 2. So if you count the levels in the pole voltage, you have 1, 2 and 3, and we say it is as a 3 level. Just by seeing the output voltage, we cannot say it is a 5 level. This is the first important thing which we should understand in case of symmetrical multi-level inverter. Then what about the pole voltage for an asymmetrical multi-level inverter? We cannot measure. Just by counting the output voltage, we say it. But when you want to go for high voltage application, you cannot use asymmetrical multi-level inverters so easily in practical applications. And similarly, if you see the 5-level inverter, in case of 5-level inverter, what happens? You have the this one. So that means in case of diode lamp, as you are seeing in this case, SA1, 2, 3, 4, and this is 5, 6, 7, 8. The switching sequence will be in such a way that 1, 2, 3, 4, if they are positive and if they are operating in one way, then 5, 6, 7, 8 are SA1 dash, SA2 dash, SA3 dash, and SA4 dash. That means complementary switches. That means when SA1 is turned on, SA5 will be off. When SA2 is turned on, SA6 will be off. That means the upper switch in the upper half of the leg and the lower switch in the lower half of the leg will be complement to each other. So in fact, we can say 1, 2, 3, 4, then the other 4 will be 1 dash, 2 dash, 3 dash, and 4 dash. Topology remains to be same. If you see how it operates, when 1, 2, 3, and 4, all the 4 are turned on, whole voltage will come. Again, I am telling you, whether you take the reference of this as N or if you take 0, the difference is, if you take this as reference in the lower one, then if all the 4 are turned on, we say it is as total VDC will fall over that one. If in the second case, you can only turn on 2, 3, and 4. When 2, 3, and 4 are turned on, SA5 will be turned on because SA1 is off. So it is complement. So what happens when 2, 3, and 4, and 5 are turned on, then what will be the situation? From here, if you see, the voltage, the circulation of the current will go through DCA1 and then SA2, SA3, 4, and it goes in this. So what happens? You have 3 by 4th VDC. That means whatever the total DC link voltage, it is 3 by 4 VDC will appear across VAN. Similarly, in the next case, if you see the SA3 and SA4 is turned on, ultimately SA5, because here you should understand that when this is, what is this radical, this positive current flowing through the load. If the load is discharging, you can check the reverse direction by in this manner. So the current flows in this way and you have minus VDC. So this is the positive and this is the negative current. Because when you are operating the inverter, either the current may flow in this direction or it may flow in this direction. Whatsoever it is, ultimately either it goes with 3 by 4 VDC or minus 3 by 4 VDC. It is ultimately the factor is 3 by 4 of VDC. Similarly, if when only 3 and 4 is turned on, in default 5 and 6 is off. So in such case, what happens? You have the current flowing in this manner. So it is VDC by what happens in this case? Half of the VDC will be flowing, because when 3 and 4 are turned on, then you have the current flowing in this manner. So these two will apply. So you get half of the VDC. In the third case, you can see only 4 is turned on, 5, 6, 7 are also on, because 1, 2, 3 are off. In such case, what happens? The current flow through the only through DC-A3 and SA4 and closes in this manner. So what happens? You only VDC by 4 apply, so it you get minus 4 of VDC. When you get VN, if all the upper switches are turned on, off, and if only turned on, then the current will either circulate in this way, Fine. So you get a 0 error, no voltage apply across the load. So you get this one. Here you are taking the reference as lower one. So what you are getting the factor as VDC, 3 by 4 VDC, half, 1 by 4 VDC and 0. If you take the reference as this as midpoint, then what happens? Here what you get VDC by 2, 1/4 VDC, 1/4 VDC, and this will be 0, and this will be minus 1/4 VDC, and this will be minus VDC by 2. Ultimately, what happens? You have the 5 levels in the system. So this is the general 5 level inverter. This number of output levels that you observe. So what are the main features of the multi-level inverter? High voltage rating required for blocking diodes. So M-1, because being I share this PPT to you, can directly get these parameters. Just by reading this slide, you may not get any knowledge, but what you should understand is, ultimately in case of diode clamp, you require clamping diodes, you require more number of DC capacitors and switches as per the requirement. So the factors where M-1 into M-2 is number of diodes required. So what is the blocking voltage VDC by M-1? These were already discussed. But there are some problems also in case of multi-level inverter. We will discuss it when we discuss about the multi-level PWM techniques. We'll come back again to discuss about those things. Then we can discuss why the unequal device rating or unequal conduction duty comes. We'll just so the next comes the flying capacitor multi-level inverter. Here over the screen, what you are seeing is a 5-level flying capacitor multi-level inverter, in which you have clamping capacitors. Flying capacitors in the DC side. So as usual, you have this. So in this case, what happens? The switching sequence in case of diode is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Whereas in the lower is 1 dash, 2 dash, 3 dash, and 4 dash. Whereas in flying capacitor, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Whereas in the lower side, you have 4 dash, 5 dash, 3 dash, 2 dash, and 1 dash. So that means you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and you have 4 dash, 3 dash, 2 dash, and 1 dash. That means in the diode clamp, you have in this way, then the complementary also is in this same direction. Whereas in the flying capacitor, if the switching direction is from upper to lower, the lower switches will be from lower to upper. So why you can see same thing, just when all the 4 switches are turned on, the total voltage will appear. And when only 3 by 4 VDC you want, then what you can do, you can switch on 2, 3, and 4. So you have this flying capacitor also charged equally with this. Assume that the total voltage is actually equally shared by all the capacitors. See, you may be having a doubt at this stage, how come all the capacitors share equal voltage? But in practical, it will not share. Why and all we'll see when we discuss the PWM techniques. So if we assume that if you make an external charge of capacitors and if you maintain the capacitors, to a constant voltage as you are seeing over the screen, then only this complete combinations will give equal amount of or the required amount of voltage. So what happens here, the total DC link voltage, the 3 VDC by 4 appears in this case. See, in case of flying capacitor, you have switching redundancy too. Because here what happens, in the first case, the total, all the 4 capacitors are giving the voltage of VDC. In the second case, what happens, if you only 3 VDC by 4 also, you can give as an output. In the other way, what happens, you can give total VDC, and if you give the voltage through a negative voltage of VDC by 4, like this, if you make the switching 1, 2, 3, 4, and if this is SA5 is on, then you can also get 3 VDC. So 2 combinations are able to give the voltage. Similarly, if you want, if you want now half VDC by 2, then what you can do, directly you can switch on SA3 and SA4, then automatically what happens, this total capacitor voltage, 2 capacitor voltage fall across the load like this. Okay, so what happens again in this case, like this. So you can get VDC by 2. At the same time, you can also, what in the other ways, you can get total VDC minus of VDC by 2 also can give the VDC by 2. At the same time, 3 VDC by 4 minus VDC by 4 also can give VDC by 2, isn't it? So like that. So what you are able to do at the same, or at the other way, what you can do, you can give total this total minus of this one as you see. So that means the way how you align the switching, ultimately the algebraic sum of this capacitor voltage can give 3 by 4 VDC, and this is not possible in case of diode clamp, because there one switching combination will give only one level of voltage. Here what happens, to achieve one level of voltage, you can make different combination of switching. So that is nothing but called as switching redundancy. And at the same time, if you want VDC by 4, then what you can do, total VDC minus 3 VDC by 4 can also give VDC by 4. Okay, similarly, total 3 VDC minus of VDC by 2 can also give VDC by 4. Similarly, VDC by 2 minus VDC by 4 can also give VDC by 4. And just directly the VDC by 4 also can give a VDC by 4 output. So that means even compare, so that means more, less the voltage level you require, you can have various combinations of switching to achieve same level of voltage, and that is possible in case of flying capacitor MLI. But the main problem is maintaining the capacitors constant at VDC by 4 or VDC by M minus 1. Why I am saying M minus 1? It is because if you want to operate the inverter of M level, the total number of splits which you require is minimum M. The total the split voltage of each capacitor should be total DC VDC minus M minus 1 should be the each split capacitor voltage. And the same should be maintained across all the capacitors in the bridge. In case of diode clamp, you will have only DC link voltage. In case of flying capacitor, you have flying capacitors also. These are the some flying capacitor states. You can see for 4 total VDC, and for 0 you have only one combination. But for 3 in the sense VDC by 3 VDC by 4, this is VDC by 2, and this is for VDC by 4. So for all these combinations, you have n number of combinations of switches. Now what happens in this case also, you'll be having the idea. So how many capacitors are there? How many how many capacitors are required, how many switches are required, or at the same time how many DC bus capacitors are required. Either whatsoever the topologies, ultimately the DC link capacitors means the split immediately, that the split capacitors in a leg that appears across the DC link voltage is called as DC link capacitors. But these DC link capacitors are always n-1 DC link capacitors in any topology, either diode clamped or flying capacitor. Whereas in case of flying capacitor, you have additional number of capacitors inside the bridge. So you have, based on the level of m-1, you have a generic what you say equation which gives the knowledge of number of capacitors or number of switches that are required in each topology. Similarly, if you go for the major thing, cascaded multi-level inverter. So if you observe the multi-level inverter, typically here what you are seeing is a 9-level inverter in which you have 4 bridges. Okay, switches are same. Whatsoever the level, ultimately switches in case of diode clamped or flying capacitor, or in the case of 5-level inverter, you may be having only 2 bridges. As it is a 9-level inverter, you are having 4 bridges connected, cascaded in nature. The title of the topology itself says it's a cascaded inverter. It is nothing but cascading of 2-level inverters will lead to multi-level inverter. Simple thing. Simply, if you discuss the H-bridge cell, what is an H-bridge cell? A single phase inverter is nothing but a 1 H-bridge cell. Okay, so this is 1 H-bridge cell. How many levels an H-bridge cell can give? 3 levels. One, when the diagonally the one combination of the switching will give plus VDC, the other diagonal switching will give minus VDC, and if both upper switches in both the legs are turned on, then you get 0 level for the with positive current for the upper devices turn on, and at the same time you get negative current for lower, if lower devices in both the cells are turned on, then you get negative on the lower side. So if you see what happens, you get V, 0 and minus V. Similarly, there is one more H-bridge cell, then also you get V, 0 and minus V. Similarly, other 2 also. Just if you normally forgot about this, if you see even this case, that means this bridge by operating its diagonal switching, you can get either V0 or minus V, V0 or minus V, V0 or minus V, and V0 or minus V. Now, I think you can easily understand, if I want 4V, then what should I do? All the H-bridge cell will be operated in such a way that I get V non-H-bridge cell, so that all will add and together give 4V. Second concept, so fine. And in the other combinations, you can get n number of ways. How? So suppose if you want 3 VDC, then what happens? If you when you want to 3 VDC, you have different 3 ways. You have many ways. Like if all the devices out of 4, right? Out of 4, 3 can be giving the V and V, so get 3 VDC, and the other will be operated at 0, isn't it? That is nothing but one type of combination, right? So you get 3 VDC by 2. So 3 VDC, that means 3 VDC you get. If you want 2 VDC, what you can do? You can operate all the 4. So you can operate. If you want 3 VDC, what is the other way? You can operate all the 4, and one you can make it minus. 3 VDC minus VDC will give 2 VDC, isn't it? So in that way, what happens? You can give n number of combination to give different type of levels as the output. If you see the level of the 5-level cascade, if you want 2E, you have a different combination. If you E, you have a different combination. For 0 level, you have n number of combination. Minus, you have n number of combination, and minus 2E. That means ultimately what happens in case of this cascaded H-bridge inverter, your aim shall be only just to achieve a number of voltages simultaneously to form one high voltage waveform at the output side. As you are seeing, or skin VDC, minus 2 VDC, 3 VDC, 4 VDC. So now what is the total voltage? 4 VDC. Here you are giving split VDC voltage of small, but whereas the output is being is a very high voltage. So that is nothing but a multi-level inverter. And you should understand here, if you ultimately you are giving 4 VDC voltage to your inverter because you are achieving 4 VDC amplitude output voltage. But what is the voltage that is falling across each device? Only VDC, because here you are giving VDC. So whether it is operating as a factor of 1 or -1, if these two whatsoever, that means if these two switches are turned on, these two switches will carry only VDC. If these two switches turn on, then this other diagonal switches will carry minus VDC. That's all. So ultimately what happened, whatsoever the level of the inverter, in the cascaded inverter, that too when you are using the H-bridge topology, the switches have only voltage of its own DC link only. Whereas the output voltage that is generated by the cascaded will be of multiple, depends upon how many you cascade. Now, if you observe the thing, now let us see, every inverter have its own advantages and disadvantages. But why we are specifically, as our discussion is towards the renewable energy grid integration system, for that specific application, which will be more suitable, we are supposed to decide. So in this case, basically, when you are going for a diode clamped or a flying capacitor, or in this cascaded in nature, when you try to operate these things as a inverter, just as an inverter, in all these cases, you are supposed to give a one equal, in the first two topologies, all these DC links are connected together, and you will give one voltage directly, so that your inverter should share equal amount of voltage among its capacitor, isn't it? And you should understand that this VDC also should be a very high, because ultimately, see, just while simulating, we connect a battery simply of 11 kV battery, 1000 kV battery. But can we create such a battery so easily? Practically no. That means when I say you require a huge voltage here, how come this DC voltage appears across these two terminals? Again, what you will do? From the same grid, you operate a rectifier and you maintain a capacitor, then you get a high voltage DC link. Then what happens to the grid power quality problem? Because you are very much aware that in case of diode rectifiers or a SCR control rectifiers and all those rectifiers, basically what is the main problem? When you are operating those rectifiers in the grid, they generate the harmonics and inject into the grid network. Due to that reason only, we will be going for high power factor converter. And when you try to use the multi-wave inverter for your applications, and when you're supposed to give a high voltage for that multi-wave inverter, again what you will do, you do the same pollution to the grid, because to create a high voltage DC, you should again supposed to generate from the grid only through some rectifier or some controlled or uncontrolled rectifier, which is not actually supported. So if you see now, when we talk about, now let us come to our discussion as a renewable energy source. When you try to integrate a high voltage, when you are generating a renewable energy from some renewable energy source, generally the level of the voltage from renewable energy will be generally small voltage levels. Solar, it is more or less, maybe through the wind also you will generate a small level of voltages. But when you want to integrate directly to a grid, it is very difficult again to enhance the capacity of the voltage to match with the grid, because the generation is low. So you are supposed to again use a big transformers and all those things to directly interface to the grid. So in case of a flying capacitor or a diode clamp, you have an open big DC link. You are supposed to connect a high voltage DC link directly to the system to produce a high voltage AC output voltage. Here our problem of capacitor voltage stress and the output voltage quality is solved, but the problem of injecting such a high DC voltage is again created new problems. But if you observe the nature of your cascaded multi-level inverter, you should understand that the DC voltage of this cascaded multi-level inverter are isolated DC link, because understand what I am exactly saying, isolated DC links. It means the converter 1, converter 2, converter 3 and converter 4 are the 4 converters which you are seeing over the screen. should be given separate DC voltages. That the DC side voltage which is representing the positive and negative polarity, it doesn't mean that just a single source you cannot connect all these parallel to that one. Once you connect all this to a, if you make a parallel connection of all these bridges to a single source, then this cascaded multi-level inverter will not at all work. See, whatever we are now discussing about the V0 and minus V generated from your H-bridge inverter will keep on added or keep on subtracted to create an algebraic voltage. It is possible if and only if all the DC links are isolated physically. Okay, so ultimately one thing, when you want to, if you without renewable energy source, if you want to operate this cascaded multi-level inverter, if you want to generate a isolated DC link, what is the way you are supposed to use a transformer. For a primary of the transformer, you give a high voltage, and in the secondary, what you will do, you will have multi-winding in the secondary of small voltages. So if you give 1000 volts in the primary, and if you connect four equal windings in the secondary, each winding will give 250, 250, 250, 250. Of course, based on the turns ratio. Then all these four isolated AC voltages generated from the secondary of the transformer will be given individually to your converter 1, 2 and 3 through a rectifier. Then you generate a isolated DC link voltage. So what is the drawback when you are using cascaded multi-level inverter for this type of DC to AC conversion is, when you are going for a specifically interested in inverter operation for generating a high voltage for some application, creating isolated DC links is a difficult task, and you are again supposed to use a transformer. Whereas if you want to use the same multi-level inverter topology to connect the AC side to a grid, in the DC side, if you have n number of small scale renewable energy generated voltages, what you can do, like if there is a PV, let us take a case study of solar system or a PV generation station, all the panels will never be connected as a single unit. What we do, all the PV cells create a PV panels, and all different, some number of PV panels are connected in series to create one string. Again, what happens, all the strings will not be connected in series. Some of the based on the some sort of optimization techniques, all those PV strings are connected, some in series, some in parallel, to achieve a specific amount of voltage and current, so that that combination will give the that combination of the voltage and current, you can extract the maximum power from the system. Again, that is a different area. But when you go for a power station also, a PV solar power station, all will never be connected. For a specific PV string, you have one inverter. For other specific, you have one inverter. Why? Because that is the way. And again, the concept is different, but based on the optimization and to achieve the maximum power output, that is the way how the PV strings are combined to form a individual voltages. So when you want to directly interface such generated power to the grid, you already have an isolated voltage sources available with you. So when you connect such small scale voltages, generated voltage from renewable to each converter 1, 2 and 3 and 4, you can generate a high voltage. Here in this specific type of renewable application, you need not specifically use again a transformer in the DC side to give a isolated DC voltages. You are already having isolated DC links, and you can directly connect those to your cascaded inverter, and so as to generate a high voltage in the AC side. So that's the reason, basically in case of renewable energy generation system, that too when you want to go for a grid connected system, the cascaded multi-level inverter will be more suitable. Okay, but one thing nowadays what happened, this is what I am telling is specifically, but in generic also, due to the PWM techniques our flying capacitor and diode clamped inverter are facing a huge problems. Of course, we'll discuss. So to avoid that problem, or other than maintaining them for capacitor balancing of DC links or flying capacitor topology, it seems that the cascaded multi-level is easy to operate because see, it have a modular structure. If you see your cascaded multi-level inverter topology, if it's a 9-level inverter, you have 4 bridges separately. So due to this modular structure, in case if there is any problem in one bridge, you can immediately replace that bridge with some sort of setup. That means you can have a spares easily. In fact, you can see it's a modular in structure. So maintenance is very easy for this type of cascaded nature. So keeping in view the robustness and keeping in view the maintenance is nothing but your modular structure, advantage of modular structure. Even for general purpose of multi-level inverters also, nowadays they're preferring for cascaded, just by giving the isolated DC link voltage from a transformer. Even railways also, they are nowadays using cascaded multi-level inverter wherever they require the DC to AC converter. I mean AC to AC also, they are operating this cascaded multi-level inverters. Of course, as the applications, if you have an opinion and idea, you will easily understand the things. So simple thing, in case of cascade multi-level inverter, you have modular structure is possible, and you have one capacitor in each bridge. In case if you are correcting a isolated DC link voltage, for creating isolated DC link voltage for each HB cell, if you are connecting through a rectifier, through a capacitor, the specific capacitor, extra capacity is also not required, because ultimately when you are giving through a rectifier for a DC, you will already operate a capacitor. So there is no specific extra capacity is required. But the main problem, as I am telling, needs separate DC sources for real power conversion. But still nowadays the researchers or even the practical industry is also finding maintaining cascaded multi-level is easy compared to other two. So even they feel it is bit costly to maintain a transformer, they are opting for multi-level cascaded system more. So in cascaded, you have 4 bridges, so you have again switching redundancy. So if you see the multi-level inverter topologies, in the literature you have n number of multi-level inverter topologies, but you should understand that whatsoever the multi-level topology, you find it out in the literature, the base is this 3. So everything will be derived from this one or from this concept only. So you have a symmetrical cascaded multi-level inverter. That is different thing. So power component required for diode clamped converter, flying capacitor converter, and CHVC converter is nothing but like this. So I think I need not study them, but M is the level of the inverter. So if I ask you just by seeing this parameter, which type of topology gives the least number of hardware, absolutely the CHVC, because if you can see, almost these two are common for both. Whereas if you are going for DC capacitor, DC bus capacitor, you have in CHVC is M-1/2, whereas clamping dies for 0. So if I say out of the basic 3 multi-level inverter topologies, which multi-level inverter have the less hardware circuit hardware, the CHVC have the less hardware. Okay, power component requirement is less. Then comes to the classification of converter. I think these things are normal. While sharing the PPT, you can have the things studied. So now let us see why you have the capacitor imbalance problems create in the multi-level inverter. So basically you have multi-level modulation structure, multi-level modulation, multi-level modulation techniques. You can see the various types. You may be having again same thing. You maybe have n number of multi-level inverter techniques hybrid based on the topology. We have different type of based on the switching instant of switching requirement. N number of multi-level PWM techniques might be proposed in the literature, but the basis of the phase and level shifted PWM. just by, we'll see what is a level shifted PWM technique. You have 4 carriers spaced in each level separately. Here the PWM technique is for a 5 level inverter. So for a 5 level inverter you require M-1 carriers. So 4 carriers are being used, and all the 4 carriers are equally spaced in 4 symmetrical bands. So you can see 4 carriers are arranged in such a way. So as usual, as you know, the sinusoidal PWM technique, each carrier is being compared with the reference voltage, and the signals are PWM techniques, the PWM what you say, PWM pulses are generated. So just by the augmentation of VC1 and your reference, you have this pulses. With the augmentation of VC2 and your, carrier voltage 2 and your modulation, you have this one. Then 3, you have this one. With the 4, you have this one. So you get the generation. So if in the case of diode clamp converter, as I am telling you, if this is SA1, SA2, if this is carrier 1, carrier 2, carrier 3 and carrier 4, in the case of diode clamp converter, the switches pulses will be, this upper is SA1, SA2, SA3 and SA4, and the complementary of this one will be given to SA1 dash, SA2 dash, SA3 dash and SA4 dash, which you already know. Next is phase shifted PWM. In case of phase shifted PWM, you have the carriers, and the carrier are equally spaced in terms of phase. That means out of 360 by M-1 comes to 90. So each carrier is being shifted by 90 degrees. So the first carrier is this one, second carrier will be this one, third carrier is this one, and fourth carrier is this one. So the amplitude of the carriers remains between 1 and -1, but the phase will be shifted. In this case, what happens? All the carriers are of same phase, but only thing in terms of level they are differentiated. In this case, this is the situation. Similarly, the augmenters of CR1 and modulation give this one, CR2, this one, CR3. See, if you see these 2 carrier techniques, what is the major thing that you observe is, see the turn on time in this switch. If you see the turn on time, in this case, if I say it is on time is of this much, in the second case, what happens? The on time is more, isn't it? So in the third case, on time is much more than the second one, and fourth one, the on time is much more than 3 1. So that means, if I say SA1, SA2, SA3 and SA4 are 4 switches from top to bottom in case of diode clamp, here the turn on time of the switches from top to bottom increases. SA1, SA2, SA3, SA4. SA4 have the highest turn on period compared to SA1. Now what happens for the complementary nature, like S1, next lower 4, 1 dash, 2 dash, 3 dash, 4 dash, it is in reverse. So what happens? The inner 2 switches, means if you see this carrier, when you are giving such PWM modulation signal in this sequence for 1, 2 and 3 and 4, the 4 will have more turn on time compared to 3, and 3 have more than 2, 2 have more than 1. So what about this 5? Now what happens? From the here, what happened? As you are coming from top to bottom, you are having the increase in voltage. So in the reverse direction, from bottom to top, you have the increase in turn on time. So internal SA4 and SA5, which you are seeing, will have more turn on time compared to SA3 and SA6. So compared to SA3 and SA6, SA2 and SA7 compared to SA2 and SA7, SA3 and SA6 have more turn on time. At the same time, here what happens? Compared to SA2 and SA7, SA1 and SA2 have less turn on time. So that means internal switches will turn on for more time. So the internal capacitor, what happens, will turn on for more time, and hence these capacitors will discharge fast. So due to which what happens, compared to the outer capacitor, the inner capacitors will be discharging more, because as the switch is turning on more time, more discharge occurs in the capacitor. So as these switches are turning on for more time, inner capacitors are discharging more, and hence as the operation of the diode clamped inverter is you keep on increasing, finally what happens at a specific stage, the inner capacitor voltages will be 0 and the total DC ring voltage is shared by both the outer capacitors equally. If it is 100, actually all the four should share 25, 25, 25 and 25. But here what happens? Each will share 50-50 and this will become 0. So what are the problems? For suppose if you are giving 100 volts here, if your requirement is to share 25 for each, because let me say the capacitor can tolerate only 30 volts, then your capacity based on this design, your capacitor should share 25 only. Okay, whereas your switches are only limited to 30. So when you are operating the multi-level inverter and when the internal capacitors are taking 0 voltage, the total 50 volts are shared by outer two capacitors, due to which when this voltage falls across this SA1 and SA2 outer switches, then automatically what happens? These two will be having more peak inverse voltage and these switches will damage. So ultimately, for the what reason you are operating the multi-level inverter, that reason comes to be unused. So this is the major problem of a what you say your multi-level PWM scheme. But you are supposed to use it because when you are going for a sinusoidal PWM technique, what you can do, you don't have any other option. So you will be using. And most important thing is the switches that are generated or the PWM switches that are generated by your what you say the switch by your this level shifted PWM do not have any switching redundancy, and it is mandatory that your diode clamped 5-level inverter, I mean your diode clamped inverter, you should use only the level shifted PWM because it don't have switching redundancy. This topology also don't have switching, because in this case also when you are operating this what you say this one specific combination of switches will give only one level of voltage, because if you see here only this is turned on and this is off. So NR3 will on, you get only 3 VDC. Here when these three are on, and only this is on and off, so you get 4 VDC. Here again when this is on and these two are on, then you get 3 VDC. So here you get VDC by 2. In this case, what happened? You get 2 VDC. Here you get again 3 VDC, so 2 VDC. Here you get 0. If you take the references lower, if you take from the middle, it is VDC. I mean VDC by 2 plus VDC by 2. This is 0 when during, and this is minus VDC by 2. This is minus VDC. So this in the case of level shifted PWM, you don't have any sort of switching redundancy, and with the diode clamped only level shifted with voltage. Whereas in case of phase shifted PWM technique, if you see the turn on time in one complete cycle, for this one and this one, instance would be different, but if you see the turn on time in one cycle, it will be same for all the four. But in case of diode clamped, you cannot use this PWM technique because it don't have the switching redundancy. So you can use phase shifted PWM technique for flying capacitor and for the cascaded only. Okay. So if you see there are many things which are submitted in the literature like carrier rotation technique and all. Whatsoever it is, ultimately you have the problem. So you have, if you see the LSPWM technique and PSPWM technique, the switching frequency is different, isn't it? It's different. Whereas in phase shifted PWM technique, it is same. Similarly, device conduction period in LSPWM it is no, whereas in this case it is yes. And inverter topology, level shifted PWM you can use for any of the three, but mandatorily for diode clamped only LSPWM is used. Whereas phase shifted PWM you cannot use for diode clamped, you can use for other two topologies. But if you see the performance of the voltages, the LSPWM will give the best, whereas phase shifted it is good. Dynamic performance poor because only one type of combination is being supported to achieve one level. This is poor. As that other PWM technique is having switching redundancy, it have good dynamic performance because it can somehow manage that specific combination of switching for achieving the targets. Capacitor balancing in LSPW it is poor, whereas in phase shift PWM it is the best because all the switches are operating and same all the switches are operating in same conduction period, you get equal amount of voltage in case of PSPWM. So that's why the capacitor balancing PSPWM is the best. So this is the end of the multi-layer inverter PPT. Now I will be moving to high power factor converter. So now I am sharing the PPT of I think it is visible. So this is the power quality which we have been discussing in the last class, last session. So this is about the high power factor converters. So I think these are introduction. I think specifically I want to discuss one point is what is a power quality. If I ask you, see, in the case of electrical engineering, we have many different parameters that are observed like transient, short duration voltage variation, long duration voltage variation, voltage imbalances, waveform distortion is nothing but again, you may have a offsets, you may be harmonics, you may be having interharmonics, notching, noise, voltage fluctuation, power frequency variations. All these comes under power quality. And basically now we are discussing mostly about waveform distortion. And the second thing is harmonics. Harmonics, why we require to maintain power quality? Because it creates harmonics, and the harmonics create a number of problems in the electrical system which you are seeing as over the screen. Next is what are the sources of power quality. If I say you may be having lightning and natural phenomena, failure of equipment, and energizing of large, so you get sag and swell in voltages and currents also. Then switching or startup of large loads such as motors in the power system, this also create the sag and swells in current sometimes and voltage also. So main important thing is the operation of reactive, non-linear and unbalanced loads, because all this is done by our power electronics converters. So just before going for a high power factor converter, I want to just give a small introduction about what is this SCR control rectifier. What are the problems of a SCR control rectifier? I'm directly moving to the point that in case of when you discuss about the normal rectifier, you have this type of situation like with R load based on the firing angle. What you are seeing on the screen are the source currents that are drawn from the source based on the firing angle. Alpha 0, 30, 60 degrees. You can see how much distortion is happening in the current waveform, input current waveform of the rectifier. So due to which how many harmonics are being injected into the grid, you can assume. So similarly, this is with inductive, pure inductive load and assuming continuous conduction. The input source current is a bit better because it is in quasi square wave. So at the same time, fine. So at the same time, in the other case, if you consider this is with the inductive load. So these are the THDs. So with the, if you see the THD of this SR control rectifier, you have 23.9 and 28.3. when alpha is increasing, this THD distortions will be more and more, even with an inductive load. These graphs all show the THD factor only, and one main thing what we want to decide is SCR control rectifier based on the firing angle to control the DC side voltage. The source current is having some problem of injecting harmonics, so that's why it is bit avoided. But can we interface a renewable energy source to a grid through a SCR controlled rectifier? Yes, we can. How? By connecting a DC side your renewable energy source by operating your firing angle, or you take the SCR controlled rectifier as in the regenerative mode of operation. So then it is possible to inject the current from DC to AC side. That means injecting the power from renewable energy source to the grid is possible. But the one main important thing that we should understand in that case is current. The current that is flowing through the flowing from the your SCR control rectifier into the grid will be a Cauchy square wave maximum. And as the firing angle is alpha, so in the case of inverter mode of operation, when the firing angle is at 180 degrees, you have the perfect Cauchy square wave in line with your grid voltage. And when the phase angle is coming from 180 to 90, in case of inverter, the power factor will be reduced. I think this should be noted, because when you are operating the SCR control rectifier as a rectification mode of operation, the power factor will be degraded as the firing angle is being increased from 0 to 90. When at the same time, when you are trying to operate the SCR control rectifier in inversion mode of operation, that too mainly when you are trying to interface the DC source to the grid through the SCR control rectifier, you get the best factor when alpha is at 180, and the power factor problem increases when alpha is at 90. So as we discussed, compared to series and parallel connection of this SCR control rectifiers or whatsoever directly to a high voltage, better the other choice is a multipulse rectifiers, which you may be knowing. So you need to use a transformer, and then you should cascade the things. I want to directly go to point of HPFC, so I'm just skipping, just have a minor knowledge over these things. So if by using multiples, the input source current is much more improved. So you can see that it is more and more sinusoidal. So if you see the THD also, for a 12 pulse, you have like this 24.6. Of course, by increasing the firing angle, this again will disturb. And then coming to the THD, this is the situation. So same thing happens as usual. When alpha is increased, THD will be, the power factor will be decreasing, but as it is in bit limit. Similarly, if you see the THD also, it is always less than 6% for a 24 pulse rectifier. You can see the THD. Whatever the firing angle, it is always less than 5-6, which is little bit at standards. So this may be used. But the problem is, again, a bulky transformer. So these all things are appearing into the system. And coming to the filters, now we have the screen. So basically what happens when a nonlinear load is connected to the grid, and whether you extract from the power from the grid or you give power to the grid by connecting a renewable energy source, ultimately the current that is feeding or taking from this one will be having an harmonics. You know, the filters are nothing but the active filters are connected at point of common in parallel, so that whatever the reactive power that is demanded by your non-linear load will be supplied by your active power filter, so that this do not draw the reactive power from the grid, and your grid will be in clean condition. So it's a simple thing. So that is the reason we go for high power factor converters. Dr. Ambrish, are you online? Ambrish? Ambrish, are you online? Hello. Okay, I think I can continue for 10-15 minutes more. I'll just go So what is basically a high power factor converter is, in this case, I'll just have the time that I can cover, so that I will cover the topics accordingly, so that I will plan the speed and all. Yeah, Manish, how much time I can cover the class? More. Okay, fine. Fine. Okay, thank you. I'll wind up in 10-15 minutes. Okay. So basically, while we discuss about this, high power factor converter, basically a high power factor converter is nothing but an inverter, and the inverter bidirectional power flow, that is from DC to AC side, or I mean from the AC to DC side, power flow is basically utilized to direct the current in a proper way, so that the power factor in the source is having unity power factor. Typically, I think the high power factor converter is something like this, what you are seeing over the screen. And this specific inverter is basically in the AC side, you connect the grid system through a boost inductor, and this one, in a simple way, one thing we can say, when you are operating an inverter, understand small logic is, when there is a three-phase inverter, you are connecting to a what you say, a three-phase induction machine. In such case, what happens? The output voltage is basically having a stepped output voltage, but the current that is drawn by the inductive load of a inverter will filter out a few harmonics, because when the inductive nature load is in series with the in series, because when the inductive load is connected, the current that should pass into your load should go against your inductance property. And what the inductor act as, the inductor basically try to filter out the, because for the higher order frequency currents, the inductor offers more resistance. And what happens, even though you give harmonic voltages to a inductive load, in the case of inverter, what happens to the current? The inductor gives more reactance to the high frequency currents, harmonic currents that are created by high frequency voltages. Because when you are giving a harmonic voltage, what does it mean? It consists of fifth order, seventh order, if it's a three phase, seventh order, then 11th order, 13, 17, and so on. You have the all odd number of harmonics except the triplet harmonics. So when such type of harmonic voltage is given to an inductor, the current that is being flown between the two nodes should pass through the inductor that is connected. During this specific point of time, what happens? The inductor which is in the loop will basically offer a high frequency, high reactance to the high frequency currents that may flow between the two nodes, due to which what happens, the harmonic currents will stop flowing through the loop and only the lower order harmonics may start flowing, due to which what happens, even though you give a stepped voltage to an inductive load in a three-phase inverter, the current that is drawn from the inverter into the load will be bit sinusoidal. It will not be a square wave or a stepped wave. Why? Because if it is a resistive load, when you are connecting a harmonic voltage to a resistive load, all the harmonic voltages create all harmonic currents, and all harmonic currents flow through the resistance. But when you are connecting an inductor, even though you are giving a number of harmonic voltages to that specific inductive load, only few currents which are at lower frequency flow through the inductive load. So that's what it happens. Simple logic. why we are specifically designing or discussing about that issue is when you are seeing this when you are seeing this specific injection of the current, basically what happens, this is a grid voltage, this is an inductor. Now if I say this is an inverter, okay, what happens, the current that is drawn from the grid, that means simply I'm telling you this is inverter. Now in the same logic you have an inductors here. So when you are injecting the power from the grid into the high power factor converter through this inductor, basically what happens here, you have the stepped voltages that are created because of your inverter, because when you are operating this inverter, ultimately you have a stepped voltages that are created, which we say as a converter voltage. And now if there is no grid here, in this case, basically this inductor filter out the voltages, I mean currents that are flowing through this loop. Now it is the same reverse action, that the same inductors, when the current is flowing from the grid through this one, the voltages that are created across these nodes will basically filter out the current harmonics, because here you have this inductor. Fine. So this is the basic thing. In the other way, if you say, for suppose if this VAN is your grid voltage, basically your if there is normal rectified is there, then the current will actually lag to some specific value. Now what happens, you by this inductor action and by the control scheme, what is your role is, this V con A, V con B, V con C are created in such a way that a phasor is created and a virtual current is being created such that the combination of the current, grid current, and this virtual current that is created by V con A will make the resultant current to be in phase with grid voltage. That means maybe your grid may be saying to the current to be in the lagging, but the V con X phasor is created in such a way that it creates a virtual current component in such a way that the virtual current component and this grid current resultant will be over and in phase with your grid, because ultimately whether it is a grid current or a V-con, the current that is flowing between these two nodes are common. So by virtue of your V-con A, V-con B and V-con C or their L, the converter voltages will make the current to align in such a way that the current that is flowing through this loop will be in phase with Vm. Because basically I am a user which I state that the current that is drawn or into the grid should be in phase. Because in case of AC to DC rectifier, the current that is taking from the grid is non-sinusoidal and it is in lagging power factor. Now my aim is the grid current should be sinusoidal and it should be in phase with grid voltage. Okay, now one thing you should understand, grid is common, this your inductor is common. The current that is flowing between these two will be based on the alignment of V con A, the converter voltages that are being generated by your switches, because ultimately here if the DC voltage is constant, the voltages that appears across these points will depends upon your switching and switching frequency. Because if as you know, like same PWM inverter, how it works in the same way, when a specific modulation signal, if you operate in for as a sinusoidal PWM technique, whatsoever the voltages that appear across the terminals, the same thing happens here, because here this is your DC source. Okay, so how this high power factor converter is generated? This is the reference. Which one? This one, because your aim is to maintain this DC side current constant, so you will give a reference, and it is the actual it is taken, so error is generated, then it is fed to the PA controller, then you get the reference current required to maintain the voltage. I require 10 minutes, Jason, 10 minutes. So this VDC, so you get this IDC here, that means this ID is nothing but the DC current that is required by the capacitor to maintain the capacitor voltage to your reference value. So this is a DC component, whichever you are generating it is reference DC. So whatever the current that is being injected here, that should be drawn from your source, and you want the current to be in phase with your so it should be so what happens in this case now, this is being multiplied with your unit template, because the current that is being drawn in the DC should be in phase with your source VIL. So what you are doing unit, you are multiplying with unit template. This is Vm sin omega t, and if your resultant current is some 2 amperes, then the IA reference should be 2 sin omega t, because sin omega t is the same angle of your A phase. If it is B phase, you will multiply with B phase. If it is C phase, you will multiply with C phase. That means after generating the IDC, this VXU is nothing but for A phase you give VA phase sin omega t. Third you make for a B phase leg you give VXU of the B phase, unit template of B phase. For the third one you give the unit template of your the C phase. So from here, so ultimately what happens, X is nothing but your phase. If it is A, it is A. If it is B phase, it is B. If it is C, it is C. That means you will be respectively again compare the reference AC current minus actual AC current here. That means this IA, IB, IC are nothing but IX here commonly. Here what is this one? This is the reference current that are generating by your calibration. So then you are subtracting, then you find the AC error current and you go for PA control. So this will generate the reference signals, reference voltage VCON A, VCON B to achieve your both target, that is to maintain the DC voltage constant and at the same time to maintain your power factor unity with the grid. The VCON X are generated. So then after, based on your topology, here we have a 2-level inverter and it will generate the you will be using the sine PWM technique to generate the PWM to your switches. So it happens in this way. So if you see the results of high power factor converter, this is the situation. This is your grid voltage. You have sinusoid. See, there is a specific thing in this case. Basically, if error is negative, then IDC can be negative. See, this same bridge can operate for regenerative mode of operation also. It is rectification. Whereas when you maintain the reference voltage more than your required, I mean, if reference voltage is more than is actual, then the error is negative. Then this current is negative. Then automatically what happens, when this IDC is positive, current will flow from AC to DC side. And when this voltage controller is giving minus VDC, then the current flow from DC to AC side. So that means this specific component or this error and this IDC decides whether the power should flow from AC to DC side or DC to AC side. So if IDC is negative, it flow from DC to AC side. If power is positive, the current if this error is positive, the power flow will be from AC to DC side. This is a simple thing, and I think fine. So this is how the so if you see the regenerative mode of operation, when the reference current, you can see the current is going in opposite direction. Here the current is flowing from converter to the grid. See here, as you are seeing, the voltage seems to be completely out of phase with the current, because the ammeter that is connected in the circuit remains to be constant. See, when we are discussing about the power factor, during the rectification mode of operation, you are drawing the current from the grid, then the current we say it is in phase with the voltage. When you are operating in the case of regenerative mode of operation, in such situation, here the current is flowing in this way. But actually what is happening now, the load is grid. When you the regenerative mode of operation you are operating, then your load is nothing but the grid. So the current is flowing in the other direction. So if you see with respect to the grid, the current is in phase with the grid voltage. So even during the rectification mode of operation or regenerative mode of operation, by the way of your, if you see from the converter side and if you see from source side, your power factor is unity respectively. Here ammeter direction was not changed, so here the current seems to be out of phase, but is in phase during regenerative mode of operation also. So based on this specific logic of this error, negative current itself, your complete renewable energy system also depends. That means I think I will directly go to the block diagram of your our grid current, because I think we don't have much time. I'll directly jump to the This is in how can you interface the renewable energy source to the grid. Same thing, just by seeing the block diagram, you need not worry. Basically, this is can be any inverter based on your requirement. This is again a same thing. In the last case, we have connected this grid in. I mean, see, just it is flipped. That's all. AC source came this side, DC came this side, because our assumption is here always that you are giving renewable energy source to the grid. So due to this reason, you may think in this manner. So if you see the thing, in case of high power factor converter, it can give, the converter can give as much as power the DC load may require. In case of inverter, what happens when you are operating the renewable energy source, how much energy you want, that much energy you cannot extract from renewable energy source, because it depends upon the availability in the renewable energy source. So whenever you are operating a renewable energy source for a grid integration system, the first thing which you should do is estimation of the amount of power that is available in the renewable energy source. That only we are doing here. Using MPPT, you generate the maximum power available with the renewable energy source. Then it is based on your grid voltage, you convert into the current component. See, rest of the things are same thing. Like you are comparing this DC side capacitor voltage constant. So reference minus actual, the actual you will give, and PID controller. So this is I star reference. This I star is nothing but the current required by the capacitor to charge and maintain the capacitor voltage. Other side, you are taking the grid voltage. This, I mean, not grid voltage, the current that you can extract from the renewable energy source and you can feed. So now here the main twist is that whether you make this, if this is capacitor current, required current, and if this is the PV available current, you should do IPV minus, IC. If capacitor current is IC, it should be IC minus IPV, or IPV minus IC is a matter. What I say is it should be I capacitor minus IPV, because capacitor current required very low, whereas this energy that is with PV will be more. So when you make the capacitor current minus your capacitor current minus your this PV current, then the component will be negative. So automatically when this component is negative, the operation will be as a regenerative mode of operation. That means the power will be feeding from DC to AC side. You just recollect the knowledge of high power factor converter. When the error is negative, the power will feed from DC to AC side. So automatically when you are making this error negative, rest of the things are same. You are multiplying with the grid voltage, you are comparing with your grid current, AC side current, and you are then using the PA controller and you are generating the signals to your inverter. So this is the way how to integrate the simple, the basic renewable energy integration to the grid is this one. But when you want to directly connect to high voltage grid, this inverter or a normal small inverter would not be sufficient. So in that particular time, you may be supposed to use the multi-level inverters. So when you are using multi-level inverters, there are n number of problems that arise. So this is the basic control scheme for grid integration. But when the topologies differ and when you are having some different type of problems, in the same control scheme, you need to make some changes so as to interface the same renewable energy source to a grid directly. Okay, so I think that's the end of the session now. Ambrish, Dr. Ambrish?
Yes, Dr. Jairam.
Yeah, done. So my session is done. Because of the time that I have, I could cover some topics.
Okay.
I hope the participants has gained some knowledge.
So now I request participant to ask any query if you have. Anyone?
Okay, I think fine. Whatever I have discussed is probably the basic. Many might be aware of those things, but those who are the beginners of the research, I think this will be useful and continue more and more to elaborate the topic.
Yes, yes, yes. So, okay, Dr. Jairam, thank you very much
Thank you.
to
Thank you.
be here in the program.
Yeah, sure. It's my pleasure.
So, thank you from NIT Patna side and
Yeah,
AICT side and from Ambarish Misra side.
sure. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So,
So,
thank you all. So, I'll be leaving and I'll be